Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. I'm excited to have you guys with me today, so I'm going to jump right in. He has officially done it, my friends. After extensive debate and discussion, Elon Musk has clinched a deal to buy Twitter for $44 billion on Monday, and that will shift control of the social media platform populated by millions of users and global leaders to the world's richest person. Under pressure, Twitter it's like do 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 do. Twitter started negotiating with Musk to buy the company at the proposed $54.20 per share. The deal ends Twitter's run as a public company since its 2013 initial public offering. In a statement, Musk said, "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy." And Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated. Twitter's shares were up about 6% following the news. I'm genuinely excited about this. Board member statements following the sale have been mixed. Current CEO Parag Agrawal told employees that the future of the social media firm is uncertain. Once the deal closes, we don't know which direction the platform will go, referring to the question of whether or not Trump would be allowed back. I believe when we have an opportunity to speak with Elon, it's a question we should address with him. Agrawal also told employees there are no plans for layoffs, and Brett Taylor, who is the chair of Twitter's board of directors, reassured employees that the agreement with Musk prioritizes operating continuity until the deal was closed. Keywords being until the deal was closed. Jack Dorsey, the former CEO and current board member, wrote a very long article that I will link in the description, but he highlighted some of it through his tweets. Quote, "The idea of Twitter and the service is all that matters to me, and I will do whatever it takes to protect both. Twitter as a company has always been my sole issue and my biggest regret." I thought that was interesting. "It has been owned by Wall Street and the ad model. Taking it back from Wall Street is the correct first step. In principle, I don't believe anyone should own or run Twitter. It wants to be a public good at a protocol level, not a company. Solving for the problem of it being a company, however, Elon is the singular solution that I trust. I trust his mission to extend the light of consciousness. Elon's goal of creating a platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is the right one. This is also Parag's goal and why I chose him. Thank you both for getting the company out of an impossible situation. This is the right path. I believe it with all my heart. I'm so happy Twitter will continue to serve the public conversation around the world and into the stars." Twitter is my main social media platform. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I do not use them even 1% in comparison with the amount that I use Twitter. It will be interesting to see where things go from here. With regards to the screeching and whinging taking place on social media, one of the biggest fears is whether or not Donald Trump will be permitted to return to the platform. I'm not sure that that is a concern or a fear that so many people should have, considering Trump invested massive amounts of money to start his own social media platform, Truth Social. I'm not sure, though, if that platform has taken off, as I'm not a participant, but perhaps if it's not performing well and Donald Trump is in fact intending on making another run for the White House in 2024, a move back to Twitter will be necessary? It all remains to be seen, but I'm interested in what you guys think. If you had a magic wand and Elon Musk would actually see these comments, leave a comment below and tell me a change that you would like to see with Twitter that would make it a better experience for you. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said following their not-so-secret visit to Kyiv that Zelensky is committed to winning his country's fight against Russia and that the United States will help him achieve that goal. He has the mindset that they want to win. And we have the mindset that we want the American people to pay for their victory. I mean, that we want to help them win. Austin said that because Russia has pulled away from the northern regions to focus on Donbass, the nature of the fight has evolved, and so their military needs, they are now focused more on tanks, artillery, and other munitions. The first step to winning is believing that you can win. We believe they can win if they have the right equipment, the right support, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure they get them. We want to see Ukraine remain a sovereign territory. We want to see Russia weakened to the point where it can't do things like invade Ukraine. The trip by Blinken and Austin was the highest level American visit to the capital since Russia invaded in late February. They told Zelensky and his advisors that the United States would provide more than $300 million in foreign military financing and had approved a $165 million sale of ammunition. Blinken chimed in and said, "We had an opportunity to demonstrate directly our ongoing support for the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people. This was, in our judgment, an important moment to be there, to have face-to-face conversations in detail." The meeting lasted for 3 hours for a talk that ranged in subjects including the help the country needs in the weeks ahead. Austin and Blinken announced a total of $713 million in foreign aid. Pay attention to this part. $713 million in foreign military financing for Ukraine and 15 allied partner countries. Some $322 million earmarked for Kyiv. The remainder will be split among NATO members and other nations that have provided Ukraine with critical military supplies since the war with Russia began. So, let me get this straight. $391 million of military financing announced for Ukraine is earmarked for other countries that have provided Ukraine with supplies. Why is the United States footing the bill for those other nations' contributions? According to the article, such financing is different from previous U.S. military assistance for Ukraine. It's not a donation of drawn down U.S. Defense Department stockpiles, but rather cash that countries can use to purchase supplies that they might need. Oh, great. So you're just printing money. It's like fucking going to the strip club. Here you go. Make it fucking rain. This story just keeps getting better. The new money, along with the sale of $165 million in non-U.S. made ammunition that is compatible with Soviet-era weapons the Ukrainians use, brings the total amount of American military assistance to Ukraine to $3.7 billion since the invasion. This is my "are you fucking kidding me" face. A federal judge in Louisiana temporarily blocked the Biden administration from ending Title 42. The measure allows border authorities to turn migrants back to Mexico or their home countries because of the public health crisis. Judge Robert Summerhays' order is unlikely to change the situation on the ground, given that the public health authority does remain in place, but it may throw a wrench in the administration's plans moving forward. More than 20 states had asked the court to block the administration from ending Title 42 last week and asked the court to immediately intervene. The Justice Department, which opposed the request, declined to comment on Monday. Here's what's interesting about this. Either there's a public health emergency and we must vaccinate all of our people, right? We must mandate, you must do this. This is a public health emergency. Or there's no emergency and we remove this restriction and we allow anyone with any condition to come into the country. I think that you cannot have both at this point. A man who died on Saturday after setting himself on fire in front of the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. was a climate activist, according to social media posts from various people who claim to know him. His name was Wynn Allen Bruce. He was 50 years old from Boulder, Colorado, who self-immolated on Friday, which was Earth Day. He suffered critical injuries, was airlifted to the hospital where he then died. He managed a portrait photo studio in Boulder and was protesting against inaction on the climate crisis. Kritik Kenko, who is a climate scientist and a Zen Buddhist priest who claims to know Bruce through the same meditation group, wrote on Twitter that while they were still gathering more information, he apparently has had the act planned for at least a year, according to a post on Twitter that included a fire emoji and the date 4/22/22. This act is not a suicide. This is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to climate crisis. We are piecing together info, but he had been planning it for at least 1 year. I am so moved. In Buddhism, the ascetic practice of self-immolation, which is where somebody voluntarily takes their own life, typically by setting themselves on fire, is extremely rare. It's a controversial practice among some adherents of the Mahayana tradition of the religion. It was practiced in South Vietnam to protest the war and continues to be practiced by Tibetans today in protest of China's invasion of Tibet. The Supreme Court is set to rule on whether or not to strip the EPA of its authority to regulate planet-warming gas emissions from power plants. And I think that was part of the motivation and why he decided to kill himself. Last one. Adolescents accounted for a higher proportion of suicides in the United States during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic than in years before. In 14 states, the percentage of deaths due to suicide that involved adolescents rose by 10% in 2020 compared to 2015 through 2019. People ages 10 to 19 years old in the states included in the analysis accounted for nearly 7% of suicide deaths nationally in 2020. 5 of these states included in the analysis, Georgia, Indiana, New Jersey, Oklahoma, and Virginia, saw an increase in a number of adolescent suicides over the previous 5-year period. Only one of the included states, Montana, experienced a decrease in both the absolute and proportion of adolescent suicide. Without question, the pandemic has been a mass casualty event, and it's difficult to overstate the impact that this might be having on kids. The findings suggest that reallocation of resources toward adolescent mental health, emergency care, and psychiatric services may be warranted, and that some states may need more help than others. That was a quote by Maimuna Majumder, who co-authored this study. What I've learned from the study, from this same organization, so this was also done by the organization who did the study that I released yesterday, heads should roll for what's been done to the children in this country, and that's all I'm going to say about that. That is Tuesday's edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. I hope that you guys have a really great day. I will see you tomorrow, Wednesday morning, and you guys take care.